Hey guys, Cody back here with you. Just finished shooting my introductory video. I was a little bit nervous. No, I was very nervous. Still, got the little bit of the jitters. Kind of an excitable guy. But here is the promised follow-up video. How to start a weight loss journey for dummies. So let me tell you a little bit about where I started at. So back in May of 2024, I had decided I'd had enough of being fat and miserable. So I started doing research. I started hitting up every fitness YouTuber. That led me to looking at scientific papers, TED Talks on how metabolism works. And there was just a whole lot of information out there that took me quite a while. Like, I've kind of made it my full-time job to learn about this stuff. And the skills that actually worked, the most important things, lucky for all of us, they're very easy to do, and these are what those things are. So at a high level, you need to get a food scale and use it. You need to get a body scale and use it. You need to calculate your TDE, or total daily energy expenditure. It takes your base metabolism and your activity levels into consideration, and it determines how many calories you need a day to neither gain nor lose weight. It's hard to know how many calories to eat and how much weight you're going to lose unless you have a baseline. So TDE is very important. And then the last thing is that using that scale, you need a calorie tracking app, and you're going to track every single thing that you eat, every single thing that you drink. Even things you don't think you need to track, you should track them. I made a 12-pound pot of chili a couple weeks ago, and I wasn't going to track the seasonings that I used. Well, it turns out that the chili powder I used in that recipe had 360 calories in it. Granted, it was a large batch of chili, but like, wow, cumin and chili powder have calories. This is good to know, you know? So Chronometer is the calorie tracking application that I use. They have paid tiers, but I've been using the free one now for, like I said, since May. And it works very well. What I like about Chronometer, and by the way, I'm not being paid by them. They don't know about this video. This is just what I've been using. What I love about it is that it's an app on my phone. It works with my Apple Watch, and it's also a web page. So if I need to enter a complicated recipe, like the chili that I made, for instance, I can go in there, and if I want to know how many calories are in my chili, I create a custom recipe. I tell it how many kidney beans I used, how much meat. I put in like the ingredients and the portions for each one to make the entire batch. And then it will automatically divide that up and spit out how many calories per gram that chili is going to have in it. And that's a lot easier to do on a keyboard with a mouse than it is tip-tapping on my phone. So I like that it's got a web page, and it works seamlessly with both of them. TDE calculator. I use TDE. I'll post a link in the description. It's really simple to use. It needs to know your height, your weight, your age. It needs to know your body fat percentage if it's going to give you an accurate number. Now, here's the thing. Your typical normal person might be 15 to 25% body fat, depending on if they're male or female, their build, things like that. So for the most part, a TDE calculator is going to assume that your body fat falls in that range. So if you tell it you weigh 400 pounds, it's going to think that you are like a wall of muscle walking down the street. And it's going to massively overestimate how many calories you need. So the trickiest part about starting the journey, and the thing that's going to take a little bit of time, is figuring out your body fat percentage and what your TDE actually is. All right, let's start by looking at our TDE calculator. The link is in the description. It's tdecalculator.net. And you can see I've already plugged some values in here. So this is the type of information that a TDE, or total daily energy expenditure calculator, is going to need. It's going to need your age, your sex, your weight, your height, how active you are, and your body fat percentage. So let's just take a quick look at the body fat percentage here. So let's change from 200 pounds to 400 pounds and recalculate. You can see that for a sedentary 400-pound person, it is estimating 3,300 calories a day. But it doesn't know if you are a super strong, buff, like power lifter type of 400-pound guy, or if it's all fat. So let's see what happens when we start giving it some body fat percentages here. So let's say 20%. This is a very fit 400-pound person. You can see that our calories shot up to 4,200 a day. Let's give it a more realistic number for somebody of that weight, 50%. Now we're down to 2,700. Maybe this person is even higher than that. Let's try 60%. Now we're down to 2,300. Again, the body weight hasn't changed. These are all 400-pound people, but the amount of body fat significantly changes the number of calories that you need a day just for maintenance. Something else that will change that is your activity level. So we have sedentary selected, and you can see here that it's giving us our base metabolic rate. Sedentary would be 2,300. If this person did light exercise, it'd be up to 2,600. Most people that are not living in a gym are probably going to be somewhere between sedentary and moderate. Heavy and athlete, yeah, unless you are actually like an athlete or something, you're probably not going to be those. So just using these numbers that we've plugged in, we can see that it is giving us some macros. Macronutrients. These are basically carbs, fats, or proteins. Technically, alcohols would be its own thing, but we're not going to get into that. So for maintenance, in other words, you're not gaining or losing weight at that 2,300 calorie a day estimation, a moderate carb diet would be 174 grams of protein, 90 grams of fat, and 203 grams of carbs. We also have lower carb version of that, and we have a higher carb version of that. The total calories are the same between moderate, lower, and higher carb. The difference is the ratio of protein to fat to carbohydrates. But we're not interested in maintenance. We're interested in cutting. So we're going to click the cutting tab. So if our maintenance is 2,300 calories a day, a 500 calorie deficit, which would get us 1 pound of weight loss a week, would be 1,825 calories. So 1,825 calories then breaks up into these three different macro ratios. We can do a 30, 35, 35. So that'd be 137 grams of protein, 71 grams of fats, 160 grams of carbs. Or we could do lower carb. Personally, I find that my body responds better to lower carb. Protein really makes me feel satisfied. It keeps me full between meals. If I eat enough protein, I can cut much harder without triggering my body to go into starvation mode and without any negative effects. Whereas a higher carbohydrate macro for me, it tends to make me more hungry than protein would, which means that I need more calories to not constantly be hungry. And I can't cut quite as hard on a carbohydrate diet. So anyway, this is why body fat percentage is so critical when you're trying to estimate your TDE. So let's plug my info in here. So I am not 21 years old. We're going to do 50-year-old male. And right now I'm at 537 and I am 6'2". So let's take out the body fat percentage and let's just see what it ballparks. Yeah, so if I don't tell it the body fat percentage, you can see that it thinks that my maintenance is 4,000 calories a day. It is not. So this is the number that I started with when I was trying to calculate my body fat. Granted, at the time, I was 620 pounds. Here, let's just plug that in, 620. This is where I started back in May of last year. You can see that there's not much difference in the TDE. So it was guesstimating that I needed 2,200 a day. And if I was doing a cut, that works out to 1,766 calories. Now, the interesting thing is when I started my journey, I was eating under 1,600 calories and I had plateaued and was not really losing weight. However, I was eating a lot of salad and not a lot of protein. I wasn't eating bulky foods. Like salad's relatively bulky, but it's basically just water. It digests relatively quickly. So simply upping my calorie intake and going for more bulky foods and adding a lot more protein to my diet, not only did I not gain weight, I started losing weight faster, eating more. And that's kind of when I had one of those aha moments where I realized everything I knew about dieting is wrong. You don't have to starve yourself. It's really just about figuring out what works for your body. So anyway, how do you determine your body fat percentage? Well, you can get on one of those scales, and they do not do a great job of determining actual body fat. But I'm going to show you how we can do this with a little bit of math. So if we look over here, I'm sure you've seen this guy floating around in the right side of the display. These are my calories for the end of November and through to the end of December. So I used a calorie tracker program called Chronometer. Let's take a quick look at that. This is Chronometer. Basically, you keep track of your calories. So every single thing that I put into my body, I measure how much it weighs to the gram, and I enter it in Chronometer. And I've been doing that religiously since last May when I started this. So every single thing, all my vitamins, supplements, salt, what I'm eating for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, like it's all here. And then this breaks it down into the amount of proteins I got, amount of carbohydrates, amount of fat. And it keeps track of all of this. So if we go to charts, we can plug in a time, for instance, last 30 days. Here, well, we can do last 4 weeks. And if we click these three dots here, we can download a CSV or an Excel XLS file. And that is how I got this data here in Excel. So what I did is I simply took my total calorie count per day, I summed it, and for the month of December, I had 89,757 calories. Now, 89,757 calories divided by 30 days got me 2,991 calories a day average. So that is what I actually averaged in the month of December. Now, here's the interesting thing. With this number, I actually ended up losing 2 pounds on 2,900 calories a day. So we've established how many average calories that I used per day. Now let's go back to our TDE and let's see if we can make the numbers work out. So let's change this to, actually I was at 540 in December. And let's recalculate. I definitely was not working out, so we're going to do sedentary here. Okay, so at 75% body fat, it says that I need 2,000 calories a day. Well, we know that's not the case, or I would have gained weight, not lost weight. So let's lower the body fat percentage to 70 and recalculate. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get this number here to read about 2,900. So lower the body fat from 75 to 70, recalculate. Still too low. If I was at 70% body fat at 548, I would have gained weight on 2,900 calories. So let's cut it a little bit more. Let's do 68%. Okay, we're getting there, but it's still low. So let's do 66%. And let's add a little bit of light exercise. Aha. Now we're right around that 2,900 mark. In fact, we can come up a little bit and say 67% body fat. And we arrive at 2,945, which is very close to what the average calories I ate per day in December. So just using a little bit of math, tracking my weight for the month, seeing whether I gained or lost. And again, I lost 2 pounds. Added up all the calories that I ate for that month because thankfully, Chronometer lets you export your data. And I simply divided by the number of days to arrive at an average of 2,900 calories. And to get 2,900 calories out of my TDE, I had to specify 67% body fat. So there you go. That is how you can figure out a very accurate body fat percentage just using a little bit of math and tracking your weight. There's some caveats here. If you are just starting to lose weight, if you're just starting a diet, your weight is going to fluctuate a lot more in that first month. In fact, you're probably going to drop more weight simply from losing water weight than you have actually lost fat. The second month, and especially the third and beyond, those losses are probably fat and not water. So if you lose, 15 pounds the first month, some of that's going to be water weight. The second month, if you lose 10 pounds, that's probably fat. If you lose 10 pounds in the third month, that is most definitely fat that you've lost, and it's probably not water weight. So over time, these numbers will get more accurate. And you can see here that I did my test here in December, and that was something that I had started back in May. So I waited quite a while before I did this. But anyway, now that I had an accurate body fat percentage, I can come down here to cutting, and I can see that if I were to cut by 500 calories a day, I would need to eat 2,445 calories. But that's not what I'm doing. I am cutting a lot more than that. So let's go back to Chronometer, the calorie tracker. Let's go to targets and profile. And down here, you can set your weight loss goal. My next goal is to be under 500 pounds, and I'm trying to do that by June. You can drag this calorie deficit slider and tell it if you want to gain or lose weight. So this is the 500 calorie deficit that the TDE calculator is recommending, but I drag it all the way to the left, and I do about 1,000 calorie deficit. Now, I told Chronometer what my base metabolic rate is, and if we go back and look here, let me see here. I'm currently at 538. I think this is closer. Yep, so 538, my base metabolic rate is 2,200. You can see here that I have lowballed Chronometer a little bit. I told it that I need less calories than I do. I would rather err on the side of caution and cut a little bit more than I wanted to rather than overeat. You can see here that I've also told Chronometer what my body fat percentage is. And that is where this goal comes from. So 1,000 calorie deficit, 2 pounds a week is what it's guesstimating, and it's showing me here my projected weight loss. So if we go back to the diary, you can see here that you have targets for the day, and my energy target was 2,000 calories. In actuality, this is more like 1,800 calories because of this cool little thing called the thermic effect of food, or TEF. And you can see here that for this particular day, it was 226 calories. Essentially, protein takes energy to digest. Some carbohydrates take energy to digest. Fat doesn't take any energy to digest. So the thermic effect for protein is very high. For carbohydrates, it's kind of middle ground, and there is no thermic effect for fat. So the more protein you eat, the more energy your body burns digesting those calories. In this case, I got about an extra 226 calories of deficit. So that's 226 free calories that I got that day simply because I chose high protein foods over high carbohydrate foods. That let me eat 226 more calories without the calories actually counting, which is kind of cool. Carbohydrates have their own version of that. It's called net carbs. So if you take your fiber and you subtract it from the amount of carbohydrates you've had that day, you end up with net carbs. And this number is going to be lower. We cannot digest fiber. We don't have the enzyme to break it down, but the gut flora and fauna, the microbiome in our gut, does have the enzyme to do that. So it gets the calories, we don't. We do get some amazing chemicals that are broken down from that though. But the net effect is that fiber doesn't count. We can't digest it, so it doesn't really count as calories. So if you eat high fiber foods, it's going to be bulky and you're not going to have as many calories in it. And if you eat high protein foods that are low in fat, you're going to have the thermic effect of food, which again, lets you eat more for the same total number of absorbed calories, which is amazing. So that is basically how you start setting up your TDE, and you can calculate your body fat percentage off of that. And again, there's a few caveats. You need to track every single thing you put in your body. Every single thing. When I make my eggs in the morning, I weigh them. I put the carton on my scale and I tare it so that it's at 0 grams. I pour out what I think is a 92 gram portion into my pan, and then I reweigh the carton of egg whites. And whatever that number is the number I put in the chronometer. I am measuring butter. I am measuring the amount of feta cheese that I put on my eggs. I am measuring the amount of salt substitute that I'm putting on my eggs. While we're in chronometer, let me show you another cool thing you can do, which is you can do recipes. So here's my homemade sourdough bread. If we go over here on the left, foods, and we do custom recipes, homemade sourdough bread. So what I did is I added ingredients. You plug all that in, you tell it how big your servings are. In my case, I'm doing 60 gram servings. There we go. And now we get a nutrition fact label that actually shows how many calories are in it, how much fat, how much carbohydrate, etc., etc. This is super useful. You can see that I have quite a few custom recipes here. The most complicated one is probably my homemade chili. Like that's a lot of ingredients. And remember when I said, track every single thing that goes into your body? That includes spices in some instances. So this was a huge batch of chili. I made 12 pounds at once. But let's take a look at the chili powder, if I can find it here. Chili powder. 120 grams of chili powder had 338 calories. If I had not put in those spices, then I would have been underestimating the amount of calories in my homemade chili. What else can you do in Chronometer? So again, I'm using the free version of this. There are paid tiers that'll let you do like fasting timers and stuff like that. I've been using the free one since last May and never had any trouble with it. One of the really cool things, if I deselect my homemade sourdough bread, one of the really cool things is it'll actually show you what your vitamins and minerals are looking like. So most people, myself included, we get too much sodium. Well, we'll go into that in a separate video, but basically you want more potassium in your body than sodium. If you don't have enough potassium, your body can hold on to sodium that it doesn't want. It makes you get bloated and it increases your blood pressure. It's no bueno. But you can see here that between the vitamin supplements I'm taking and the healthy food choices I'm making, that I am essentially getting most of my vitamins and minerals, and that's a good thing. It also breaks down fat, caffeine. Oxalates are important if you have kidney stone problems. You don't want to eat a lot of high oxalate foods if you have kidney stones or if you've had kidney stones before. It's more likely to create them. Breaks down carbohydrates. The main thing here that you're looking for is added sugar. You want added sugar to be kept to a minimum. That, for me, for purposes of weight loss, is essentially all the same to me. Protein, you know, it breaks down the different amino acids that make up a protein. I haven't really found a use for this, but the stuff that's important to me here is to make sure that I'm getting enough vitamins, enough minerals, that I'm hitting my fiber targets, and then my total calorie count. And that's where this energy summary is really handy. Something else is that Chronometer can keep track of your exercise. So Apple Health will report your exercise habits and how many calories that you burned to Chronometer, and Chronometer can then adjust your calorie target for the day. Like if you were very active and burned a lot of calories, it can, you know, up your calorie intake for that day. By the way, you can also set your own macro targets. So remember when we were looking at the TDE calculator, you know, 305 grams of protein, 135 fats, yada, yada, yada. You can directly plug those numbers into Chronometer here. And it will tell you what your calorie target for the day was as well. If we go to advanced settings, yeah, we're doing net carbs. Anyway, that is how to establish your TDE and how to use Chronometer to establish your body fat percentage. So between weighing all of your food, logging the calories in Chronometer or any calorie tracking app that you want, and tracking your weight, that is the key to a successful diet and weight loss. It's hard to know. Like I said, if you cut 500 calories a day, that's a pound of fat loss a week. It's hard to cut 500 calories exactly unless you know what your total daily energy expenditure is. And you're only going to know that by tracking your weight and tracking your calories. So that's where to start your weight loss journey. Again, to summarize, get yourself a food scale, get a body scale, calculate your TDE, and start tracking your calories. For the first month of your diet, that's all you got to do. You don't even really have to diet that first month. All you need to do is establish those habits, and you need to track your calories and see if you can figure out what your TDE is. For the first month, that's all you got to do. It's easy. I did it. I was miserable. I could barely stand up or have my life together when I started, and I managed to do it. So I hope that you find that you can do it as well. If you need any help, if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up in the comments. Again, for you people out there that are struggling with the same thing that I've struggled with, I want to be there for you. I know what it's like. This is for you. These videos are for you. So please reach out. Any help you need, I got you, homie. But I'm Cody. Thank you for watching my video. Take it easy.